All right, picture this. You're running late, sprinting for the bus,
Yeah.
and suddenly you're gasping for air, like a fish out of water.
Right.
Ever stop to wonder what's going on in your body during that mad dash?
It's more than just like needing a bit of extra oxygen, you know.
Right.
It's your entire body kind of shifts gears to keep you moving. And it relies on this incredible process called respiration.
And that's what we're diving into today, respiration. We've got a section from a science textbook, Respiration in Organisms.
Okay.
But trust me, we're going way beyond 7th grade biology here.
All right.
Get ready to see this everyday process in a whole new light.
Yeah, it's a fascinating example of how something as seemingly simple as breathing, connects to these complex reactions happening in every single cell.
The textbook starts with a question I'm sure we've all faced.
Sure.
Why are you always reminding me to eat?
Yeah.
It's like our parents instinctively knew that food equals energy.
They were on to something.
Yeah.
Our bodies are like finely tuned machines. And those machines need a constant supply of fuel.
Right.
And that's where cellular respiration comes in.
Okay.
It's how our cells unlock the energy.
So it's not just about shoveling in the pizza.
Right.
It's about our cells knowing how to actually use that pizza as fuel.
Precisely.
Okay.
And there's not just one way this happens.
Yeah.
We often hear about aerobic respiration, which uses oxygen.
Right.
Much like a fire needs air to burn.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then there's anaerobic respiration, which happens without oxygen.
Right.
How can our cells possibly create energy without oxygen?
So our bodies have some pretty impressive backup systems,
Okay.
Anaerobic respiration kicks in when your muscles are working really hard.
Right.
And they need like a quick energy boost.
So that's where our muscles sometimes feel sore after a hard workout?
Exactly. That soreness is partly due to a buildup of lactic acid,
Okay.
which is a byproduct of anaerobic respiration.
So it's our body's way of saying, like, all right, time to slow down and let me catch my breath.
Exactly. But here's the thing.
Okay.
This same process, anaerobic respiration,
Yeah.
is how yeast creates beer and wine.
What?
It's bread rise.
Wait, seriously. So my sourdough bread and I are basically using the same energy-producing process?
In a way, yeah.
That's both cool and kind of strange.
It speaks to the incredible diversity of life on Earth,
Yeah.
and how these like fundamental processes connect us in these unexpected ways.
Okay, mine's officially blown.
Chuckles.
We've talked about the energy side of things, but what about breathing itself?
Sure.
The textbook suggests trying to hold your breath,
Yeah.
which I'm not going to lie, made me a little anxious.
Sure.
But it is a good illustration
It is
of how essential breathing is, even if we rarely think about it.
Right.
But here's the distinction.
Go.
Breathing is just one part of the larger process of respiration. Okay, so if cellular respiration is the engine, where does breathing fit in?
So think of your lungs like the bellows,
Okay.
pumping air in and out.
Okay.
The oxygen we breathe is like the fuel that's needed to burn the energy we get from food. And breathing out carbon dioxide is like releasing the exhaust.
Okay.
But the real energy production
Yeah.
that's happening inside each and every cell.
That's a helpful way to visualize it.
Yeah.
But the textbook also mentions this hilarious image of kids having chest-expanding contests.
So
It made me think, how does this whole breathing mechanism actually work?
it's pretty ingenious.
Okay.
Our lungs are these spongy organs that sit in our chest. And beneath them is a large dome-shaped muscle called the diaphragm.
Okay.
When we inhale, the diaphragm contracts,
Right.
pulling downwards
Yeah.
and creating more space in our chest.
So our chest expands,
Yeah.
pulling air into our lungs, kind of like inflating a balloon.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
Then, when we exhale, the diaphragm relaxes,
Okay.
pushing air back out, like
Yeah.
deflating the balloon.
Right.
Of course, our rib muscles also play a role,
Uh-huh.
expanding and contracting the chest, making sure that air gets in and out efficiently.
Wow, it's a well-coordinated system.
It is.
So humans have lungs.
Right.
But what about all the other creatures on Earth?
Right.
The book mentions that not every organism breathes with lungs.
Yeah.
Some don't even have lungs. How does that even work?
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a testament to like evolution's creativity.
We humans tend to think
Yeah.
lungs are essential for breathing, but
Right.
nature's full of surprises.
It is. It's
There's so many different ways of doing things.
Yeah. Take insects, for
Yes.
example, instead of lungs.
Right.
They had these tiny openings all over their bodies called spiracles.
Like little portholes letting air in.
Exactly.
Oh.
And these spiracles connect to a network of tubes called tracheae that deliver oxygen directly to their cells.
So it's like a direct pipeline for oxygen, no lungs needed.
Yeah.
What an incredibly efficient system.
It is. It is.
But what about creatures that live underground, like earthworms?
Yeah.
I remember from a previous deep dive that they actually breathe through their skin.
That's right. That's right.
How does that even work?
So earthworms have moist, permeable skin
Okay.
that allows gases to diffuse directly into and out of their bodies, which is why they need to stay in damp environments.
That explains why you only ever see them above ground after it rains.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. Their survival depends on that constant moisture.
Yeah.
Speaking of adapting to different environments, let's not forget about fish.
Right.
They live underwater. So how do they get the oxygen they need?
Right. So they have gills, of course.
Right.
Right.
But now that you mention it, it's pretty incredible that they can extract oxygen from water.
It is.
Like, how does that even work?
So fish gills are incredibly efficient
at
capturing dissolved oxygen from the water. As water flows over the gills, blood vessels within the gill filaments will absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide.
It's amazing to think that something we think of as this life-giving fluid for us is also breathable for other species. It really highlights that respiration isn't just about breathing air. It's about how organisms obtain oxygen from their specific environment.
Exactly. Exactly. Which reminds me, whales and dolphins. They live in the water, but they don't have gills.
They're mammals. Just like us. So they need to come to the surface to breathe air.
Exactly.
It's incredible to think of these massive creatures relying on those huge breaths they take at the surface to fuel their underwater adventures.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So it's interesting how, even though we've been talking about all this diversity of respiratory systems, there are also fundamental similarities across all these air-breathing creatures.
Exactly.
Speaking of similarities, those chest-expanding kids from the textbook got me curious.
Chuckles.
How much air can our lungs actually hold?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
On average, an adult's lungs can hold about 6 liters of air.
6 liters? That's like, what, 3 2-liter bottles of soda?
That's a lot.
That's a lot of air.
Yeah.
We don't actually inhale and exhale that much air with each breath, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Our bodies are remarkably good at regulating our breathing.
Okay.
So we take in just the right amount of oxygen for our needs.
Okay.
Our breathing rate changes depending on what we're doing.
So when we're sprouting for the bus, our breathing rate increases. Because our body's demanding more oxygen.
Exactly.
But when we're relaxing, our breaths become slower and shallower.
Exactly.
It's like our respiratory system knows exactly what our body needs at any given moment.
That's a really good way to put it.
It's amazing.
It is.
So we've talked about how our breathing rate changes based on our activity level, but there's still so much we don't fully understand about breathing. Like, why do we yawn?
Right.
I thought yawning was just our body's way of saying we need more oxygen.
So that's one theory.
Okay.
But there are others.
Like what?
Some believe it helps regulate brain temperature.
Huh. Interesting.
While others think it's more about social signaling.
Okay.
And alertness.
So it's like this whole other layer of complexity.
Right. It's an area of ongoing research.
Wow. So the next time I yawn, I'll remember that even the simplest act of breathing still holds mysteries for scientists to unravel.
Exactly.
And it's not just air that we breathe in and out, is it? What about all the dust, pollen, other stuff?
Yeah, good point.
Floating around in the air.
Right. So that's where our impressive filtration system comes in.
You mean our noses?
Exactly.
Okay.
Those little hairs in our nostrils.
Right.
They're not just for decoration.
Chuckles.
They actually trap larger particles like dust and pollen.
Yeah.
Preventing them from reaching our lungs.
So it's like a first line of defense against those unwanted invaders.
Exactly.
But sometimes those particles make it past our noses.
Right.
And that's when sneezing comes in.
Precisely. Sneezing is our body's way of forcefully expelling irritants from our nasal passages.
It's amazing how our bodies have these automatic reflexes to protect us.
It is.
We don't even have to think about it.
Right.
And it's not just solid particles we're breathing out either.
No.
Remember that feeling when you breathe on a cold window and it fogs up?
Of course.
What is that?
So that's because the air we exhale contains moisture.
Okay.
Water vapor that condenses on cold surfaces.
It's a good reminder that our breath is more than just oxygen and carbon dioxide.
Right.
It's a complex mixture of gases.
Right, yeah.
And even water vapor.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the air itself.
Okay.
The air we breathe in is about 21% oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
But the air we breathe out only contains around 16% oxygen.
So our bodies are taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide.
Exactly.
Which changes the composition of the air we exhale.
Exactly. And maintaining that delicate balance of gases in our bodies is crucial for our survival.
All this talk about breathing is making me appreciate my lungs on a whole new level.
They are remarkable organs.
They are.
But it's important to remember that respiration is like a whole body effort.
In what way?
Well, it involves our circulatory system to transport oxygen, our digestive system to break down food into usable fuel, and even our nervous system, which controls our breathing rate.
It's amazing how all these different systems in our bodies work together seamlessly.
It really is. It really is.
But I'm starting to think that respiration is bigger than even our individual bodies.
Right.
It's almost like it connects us to everything. It really is amazing.
It is.
How respiration connects us to everything.
It's like, remember how we talked about cellular respiration being like an engine with food as fuel?
Right.
Well, there's this whole other process that's like intricately connected to it called photosynthesis.
Ah, yes, photosynthesis. That's how plants make their own food using sunlight?
Exactly.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Photosynthesis and respiration are like two sides of the same coin.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How so?
So during respiration, our cells break down glucose, which is a type of sugar, to release energy.
Okay.
And remember how we talked about carbon dioxide being like a waste product of that process?
Right. We breathe it out with every exhale.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, plants actually need that carbon dioxide. They take it in along with water and sunlight, and they use that energy to build glucose through photosynthesis.
Right.
And guess what one of the byproducts of that process is?
Well, let me guess. Oxygen.
You got it.
The very thing we need for respiration. It's like a perfect cycle. We breathe out what plants need.
Exactly.
And they release what we need.
It's amazing.
That's incredible.
It is.
It really highlights
the
interconnectedness of all living things.
It does.
You know, it's easy to think about respiration as something happening solely within our own bodies.
Right.
But it's part of a much grander scheme.
Exactly.
A delicate balance that keeps our entire planet thriving.
And from the tiniest bacteria to the largest whales, respiration unites us all in this incredible web of life.
This deep dive has completely changed my perspective on respiration.
Oh, wow.
You know, we went from holding our breath to exploring all these different types of respiratory systems to uncovering this profound connection between all living things.
It is.
It's amazing.
It is. So for our listeners who are eager to delve deeper.
What's one question you'd recommend they ponder?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Consider this. Even single-celled organisms respire.
Right.
How did such a complex and essential process first arise?
Wow, that is a question for the ages.
It really is.
So from the smallest cells to the grand cycle of life on Earth, respiration is more than just breathing.
It's true.
It's this invisible thread connecting us all.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
It's something to think about next time you take a deep breath.
It is.
Until next time.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us.